I'm Jer Stays, and this is what's happening on your Daily Detroit for Monday, July 27th, 2020. Hamtramck is the most population-dense and possibly the most ethnically diverse city in Michigan. But in its history, it has never passed a bond to support their schools. Hamtramck Public School Superintendent Jaleelah Ahmed joins me to talk about why she thinks the time is now, and we learn more about what could be the oldest functioning elementary school in the state. Plus, you might think that during a pandemic, people might stop buying homes. Nationally, though, it's on the rebound. And for two local companies that are big in the mortgage industry, Quicken Loans and United Shore, that's good news. Cororaton from the National Association of Raltors joins me to talk about what's driving these existing home sales numbers and how they're recovering. Before we get started, I have a bit of housekeeping. We're up for the Best News and Politics podcast at podcastawards.com. Your nomination in our category would be much appreciated to make it to the next round as a finalist. We're up against some wonderful national shows from huge national outlets, so just getting into that tier would be amazing. To do it, we need your help. So that's podcastawards.com. Click to nominate my favorite podcasts and go from there. We're in the News and Politics category. Thank you so much. Joining me on the line is Hamtramck Public School Superintendent Jaleelah Ahmed. Welcome to Daily Detroit.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So there's a lot happening in Hamtramck in general. The latest is that there is a bond proposal. But first, let's set the table and talk about the Hamtramck Public Schools. A lot of people might be familiar with Detroit Public Schools or the suburban district they're in. But let's talk about how big is Hamtramck Schools? What does it look like? That kind of stuff.
Sure. So Hamtramck Public Schools is a wonderful, diverse community of learners, high-quality educators. We service about 3,500 students with more than 25 languages. Predominant language groups are Arabic, Bangla, Albanian, Bosnian, and Polish. And we're just very excited about excelling and continuing to be committed to excellence.
Well, one of the things that's fascinating about Hamtramck as a story is it's not only the most physically dense city in Michigan. I mean, if you want a city that's more city-like, you're not going to find one more so than Hamtramck. And it's also extremely diverse, as you mentioned, with those languages. So what's going on with all of these schools? Because I understand that you may have the oldest functioning elementary school in the state.
Yeah, Holbrook was built in 1896. So it's definitely one of our oldest functioning elementary school, not only in the district, but in Michigan.
Just from my own personal experience, buildings take upkeep and maintenance, and I think that's kind of part of the point of this $35 million bond proposal for August?
Yes, absolutely. The Hamtramck City has never passed a bond. And in most of the cities, at least one bond has been passed. We did have a bond proposal in 1997, and unfortunately it was not passed. We have a sinking fund that was fortunately passed, and we're very grateful to the residents and the taxpayers. And right now we're hoping that the bond 2020 could be passed and we could work towards safety, security, and equitable measures for all of our students.
One of the things covering education in Michigan that I think people don't realize is that the state doesn't necessarily provide funding for buildings and facilities. And what I've noticed that there's a lot of successful districts, but their districts have something in common in that they're also using additional sources of revenue to take care of their infrastructure. It's notable to me that Hamtramck hasn't posted a bond. And really, what are you looking to do with this bond that you're asking for this year?
So currently we have 10 portables that were purchased used, and they house 250 students. So the other half of the students that belong to Dickinson West Elementary are housed in a shared building with Kosciuszko. So, I mean, you can see the disparities and inequities by this layout. So we're hoping with the bond, it would allow us to eliminate the portable classrooms, and we would be able to construct a new 37,000 square foot 3-story elementary building with new furnishings and technology.
How important is that to attracting and keeping residents and people in the schools? Because one of the challenges in Michigan is that it is a school of choice state for the most part. I assume you've got to keep competitive.
Yeah, we definitely want to be competitive. We want to recruit students. We want to retain students. And it's important for us, again, to make sure that we have the most conducive learning and teaching environments. We are being equitable. We are meeting all of the needs of all of our students. And it's important to take into consideration our staff as well.
Schools in general are important to a community, and they also help maintain property values. I've seen that as well. Do you look at the bond as something that is in some ways an investment in people's property values and what they're doing in Hamtramck?
Absolutely. A viable community always has a strong school district. And the better the school district is, the higher the return investment or value of the properties. And even for the businesses, it's always going to improve the business as well. It's definitely something that would benefit everyone. The bond not only would be looking at constructing a 37,000 square foot, 3-story elementary building, but we need to do the upkeep in terms of the mechanical systems to provide air conditioning and getting new windows and remodeling our restrooms. Again, with our aging buildings, the renovation is long overdue. But in addition to that, the entire community will benefit because we will have an expansion to the community center, which will include a new fitness center and a multi-purpose room that will be open to local residents.
Oh, wow.
That's a huge benefit.
For sure. Michigan in general sometimes has trouble passing, just communities in general has trouble passing infrastructure bills. I think about, what we have dealt with the roads, and, many communities have dealt with things around public safety. To you, why is it so important right now that Hamtramck residents push this through?
So first, I want to know that it is quite unfortunate that Michigan is one of 12 states that does not provide capital for school infrastructure. This is something I think that, in the future we do need to look at more closely because it's important that we are equitable. And this lack of support for the school districts like Hamtramck Public Schools, like Detroit Public Schools, really puts the districts at a huge equity gap. But going back, we know and understand the concern for many is cost, especially as COVID-19 continues to have harsh economic impact. But as a result, the district has developed the bond proposal seeking to minimize the financial impact on our community. We're really hoping that the community members could see the benefits that it will have not only in securing and investing in our students, in our community, in our future, but definitely the impact it will have on each individual.
Hamtramck Public School Superintendent Jaleelah Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us on Daily Detroit. A reminder that this vote is on August 4th in Hamtramck.
Yes, thank you so much.
Joining me on the line is Gay Cororaton, Director of Housing and Commercial Research for the National Association of Realtors. Gay, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Hi, Ajay, and good afternoon to all your listeners out there.
Yes, it is a good afternoon. I wanted to talk to you because I am really interested in this top line number that I found out about where existing home sales have climbed a record 20.7% in June. I thought we were in a pandemic. Where does this come from?
Actually, the market had been going strong prior to the pandemic. January and February, the existing home sales were up already strongly, but the pandemic struck in March. And so the market took a dive in April and May. But with states opening back, that's one factor that has brought back buyers to the market. And I think the main factor really that is bringing them back is the low interest rates. Interest rates are what? A low below 3% or at 3% compared to about 4% a year ago. And about a $300,000 home with record rates this low, you can get your mortgage payment is just about $1,000. Of course, you got to put in that 20% down payment. But about just $1,000, and I was just looking at the data, and that's just about the same level for the median rent.
Yeah.
So rates have really just made it so affordable. So if you were thinking of buying a home before, right, with the rates now, that I think is just a clincher.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed too was that home pricing has stayed strong.
Yes. So what has happened is that even when the market turned south, the home prices continued to rise, although they rose at a slower pace. We did not really see them crashing. And I think it may be because sellers think that they're not going to, sell their homes at a loss just to sell their home. I think they think that the coronavirus pandemic is something that is temporary. And also probably they're thinking, why am I also selling now, right? They're not selling. So prices have held up. Nobody is selling anyway. So there's no point in slashing your prices just to sell your home. That's why prices have held up.
Well, and inventory is staying low too, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's it, right? So people are not selling compared to the pace of demand that's out there. It's a law of supply and demand. You have more demand than prices. The latest data is that inventory nationally is down about 20% from a year ago. So that's also lifting up prices.
So how does that work out regionally? I know there's differences in different regions of the country.
So regionally, all regions actually sales increased in June compared to May. So essentially what's happening is the market plummeted in April and May. They came back in June. Now, just to give the complete picture here, although the market recovered strongly by 20.7%, we are still below last year's level. We're still around 11% below last year's level. Now, across your market and in the Midwest sales were up 11% in June compared to May. And then compared to a year ago, Midwest sales in general are still 13% down. So all regions up, but compared to a year ago, all regions are also still below a year ago.
So what do you kind of see going forward? Do you think this is something that this recovery will continue? Are you not sure? Can you look in your crystal ball a little bit?
Right now, we've been seeing this strong growth. And as I said, it's coming from opening of the economy. Of course, some states are sort of pulling back, but they're not going back to that lockdown that we had in April and May. So we definitely will not be going back to that low level that we had. So that's one factor which says that the market will continue moving. And second, unemployment is still at a very high rate. Although you probably heard in the news that jobs have been picking up, fewer people have been filing for unemployment. Again, compared to a year ago, we still have 18 million people unemployed. 18 million. That's about 3 times the 5 million that we had. So with that, the Federal Reserve Board has been lowering interest rates, making it easier for banks to lend so that banks in turn can lend that money cheaply to businesses and mortgages and just keep the economic engine moving. So the Fed has said that they are not going to raise interest rates anytime soon. They're even saying we're not even thinking about raising rates because low mortgage rates has been really the main driver for this recovery. So I would expect to see with low mortgage rates this sustained demand in home buying. So the crystal ball says is right now the factors are it's going to continue. I'm not seeing anything out there that will say sales are suddenly going to plummet, unless of course we're going to see this massive surge in coronavirus that tells states we're just going to have to shut down again. I mean, I can't predict that, but I'm going by what states are saying that, like, for example, California, right? They're seeing a surge, but then they're also making sure that they're trying to balance closing some sectors with also seeing how the economy can keep going because certainly, 18 million people unemployed is a big decision factor. So states are trying to weigh that, how to keep people safe, but at the same time also keep the economy going.
And if health officials can get a hold of this virus going forward, with all of those people who are currently unemployed coming back to jobs, even if only a portion of them do, that's going to also kick up demand, I would think, right?
Yes. So, of course, jobs are coming back. And as I said, the low mortgage rates are helping businesses come back. That's one factor also why jobs have been recovering. Yes. So the thing also is, of course, a lot of these lost jobs, about half of them were in retail, trade, transportation, education, health and services. And 50% of those are renters, but some of them are also homeowners. So jobs, mortgage rates are drivers for home demand.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you, Jer. Yeah, happy to share the data that we have with your listeners.
Well, thanks so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. If you haven't subscribed yet in your favorite podcast player of choice, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, why don't you think about it? That way you'll get new episodes every weekday from us. I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we're going to get through this together.